They don't care if you're using machine learning, AI, big data. How are you gonna help me solve my day-to-day problems? So I think that's the biggest myth. It's not about these fancy words and technology, but it's actually solving real life problems.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in here to the WiseNetics podcast. My name's Daryl. I'll be your host today. And today I've got someone really cool with me. I've got the COO of Asymmetrics, Sebastian Villegas. Sebastian, how are you doing today?
I'm really good, Daryl. Thank you for having me here.
Hey, we're super happy to have you. Always have a good time talking with you too. For the audience, tell us a little bit about you.
Perfect. So I'm from Colombia. Currently live in Medellin, which is the second biggest city. And I've been in the agricultural sector for the last 12 years, working at Illuma Group, which is a nutrition group in Colombia that helps protein producers produce better protein of better quality and with less cost. Asymmetrics is one of these companies that is focused on analytics, working with the numbers of protein producers, delivering smart farm sensors to better track and understand how everything is working on field, and just help them produce better quality protein at a lower cost.
Yeah, awesome. So you guys do a lot of tech solutions, is that right? At least in your branch?
Exactly. So we do this analytics where we work with numbers and just data all around. And we also produce some sensors such as Peak Vision, which is a smart camera that can weight peaks with AI and artificial vision in real time. So this is pretty cool stuff we're doing right now.
Oh, wow. That is pretty cool. I'm sure we're going to get into that. But a little bit more about you, and everybody gets asked these questions, but what would you consider is a top achievement of yours, and what did you learn from that?
Well, great question. I think what I'm most proud of is I don't have a background in agriculture. I was born and raised in the city. I'm a mechatronic engineer myself. So, very tech wise, but never too connected with the field, with the animals. And being able to land into this sector, I think it's been an amazing experience for me. I've been already 12 years learning all the importance this sector has in our lives, how developing people's health, kids' brains, like from an egg, from a piece of chicken, everything is so important in our lives, and all that is required for this sector to grow, to achieve better results. It's just amazing. People don't know all the tech, all the smart people behind a piece of meat on your plate. And learning this, being able to go deeper into all this productive system, I think it's been a great part for myself, and I feel really, really proud of what we are doing right now.
Yeah, that's I love that you brought that up because I feel like it comes up in every episode in some form or another, at least episodes that I host, because I'm not from agriculture either. And, you mentioned like learning more and more about it and how all of these people are involved and, what goes from the egg to at the end, the piece of a chicken, it is mind blowing to me. And I wish I was almost exposed to it sooner.
It really is. Like, people really think like, no, yeah, the egg comes from the farm next just outside the city, but there's so many things involved, from nutrition, technology, everything, disposals, logistics. It's a huge world with a lot of things to do.
It really is. So maybe we'll get back into that. But this is always a fun question, and I always love everybody's answers because they're pretty varied. But how would your parents describe what you do?
Well, right now they know I work with protein producers, and they know we are trying every day to make protein more available for countries like mine, where people they still struggle to afford a couple of eggs. So how you make
Mhm.
this kind of quality protein, more affordable to everyday people. So that's the the biggest impact we are trying to achieve. So that's my day today.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome, and for everyone. And I love Colombia, so I know exactly what you're talking about. Uh, kind of switching gears a little bit here, just a few marketing questions for you, Sebastian. What would you consider essential marketing tactics that you have in your toolbox?
Amazing question. This has been a crazy year for us in Asymmetrics, marketing wise. We used to be like a support area for Premex, which is the biggest nutritional company in Colombia. So we would just help them with whatever they had in mind. But this year we started going directly to the market. And when we started, like our CEO told us, okay, do find clients by yourself. I was like, well, where do I start? And it was like I didn't know where to start, and we started having a lot of conversations. And right now we are doing a lot of things, especially creating a network, so people really know and understand who we are. As you know, the most important marketing tool is referrals. It's like you won't have anything above that. So letting know people who you are, and then we have our CRM tool. We've been really active on LinkedIn, getting the word out there. We're visiting some fairs, so we were at LPN in Miami 2 months ago. Last week we were at 333 event here in Medellin. And we started talking to a lot of people, letting them know what we do. So I think you can have any tool you want, but if people are not knowing you, they're not talking with you, you're not getting to people's
Mhm.
conversation, that's the most important thing you can actually do. That's where we are focusing right now, letting people know who Asymmetric is and what we are doing, that how we can actually deliver value to protein producers.
Yeah, it sounds like you're in the brand awareness stage to me.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Awesome, awesome. And you're right, referrals, absolutely the best thing you could ever get. They're the best leads. They come from happy customers or clients. I love them. So I'm sure you do too.
Yeah, and we started with these cold messages like on LinkedIn. It was kind of painful. Yeah, just trial, but the first one was so long, no one answered it. I was like, what were we doing? Then we switched a little bit and we started having some conversation through that. But at the end, going into places, doing some networking, showing your products to the people, I think it's really, really important.
Oh yeah, especially in this industry, right? I think face to face time is extremely important. Whereas if you come from like the tech world, at least here in the U.S., it's very transactional almost, where uh, lots of LinkedIn messages, lots of emails, lots of phone calls, but not necessarily the handshake. Um, and of course, that varies from organization to organization.
Yeah, and I think, Daryl, in our industry, it's very important uh, to understand the producers' pains, because they have such a narrow space for investment. Like it's penny to the pound, like what they really earn at the end of the day. So you cannot be just delivering ads online and wishing people will come and buy for you. On the protein producers, they really need to understand what that you are selling, how they're gonna get value,
Mm-hmm.
um, understand those kind of conversations. Yeah,
Yeah, how are they going to get their biggest bang for the buck and not come, be in the red the entire year for it?
and especially this industry that goes green and red so easily year from year. Oh, this year has been amazing for most of them, but anything can happen with prices in the market. And
Yeah, at the very fickle whim of the market.
exactly, exactly.
So we mentioned that you were like in the brand awareness phase right now. Part of that is like, how are you getting that? Do you think producing and sharing technical content is important for that? And why or why not?
Love that question. We really believe it's so important to produce great content. We have so many insights from the data. We've been collecting data for over 10 years. So like we want to put everything out there. But of course, we have to be careful because some numbers are private. But
Hmm.
creating this content is so demanding. So we've been thinking like, okay, yeah, we should do a webinar and a PDF with a lot of insight that people, when they download it, they'll give us their data. But it's not like you just put someone a couple of hours to do that. You really need to invest the time. And it's been like, okay, what we do now, we create brand awareness. Do we create content? We're next year, we really believe we want to invest in creating really good content because it's not just about putting a PDF with a couple of numbers. It's about delivering value through this content. So people is actually interested in going there, downloading, giving you their data, their names. So you got to do it right. It's not about just creating a webinar on one day and that's it. You gotta be consistent on what you're generating. Either it's a newsletter or something on LinkedIn. But right now, we believe that's a good, really approach. But we don't have like the time or the means right now to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think from conversations we had earlier this year, you guys are kind of, if you're in brand awareness mode, you're kind of like almost like the scrappy startup, right?
Exactly, exactly.
So it's all about resources, and I get that because I've been through several, and we're still here, a small company at Wisenetics, and agile and scrappy in the same way. So you have to find places for your resources, and it sounds like you guys are kind of figuring that out with, let's do a little bit over here, and then but next year is content. Um, and I want to point out, you said something that's awesome. You said consistency, and that is so important. I think you'd agree with that too.
Yeah, totally. And it's not, and consistency and good quality. It's not just uploading a picture every week, but what you want people to get from you, from your brand, from your company. And as you said, we are like a startup, and you really need to focus where you want to invest every every dollar, every. I think more than money is time, it's energy, people's energy.
Hmm.
So you gotta be really careful with that.
Yeah, energy equity is, you can get some burnout pretty quick
Yeah, yeah.
when you spend it all too quickly and all over the place. Yeah, goodbye. Very tired today. Um, this is always kind of a fun question, Sebastian. What is a common myth about your job or even your field of expertise?
Perfect. This is something we we go through all the time since we are an analytics tech company in the ag sector. So first of all, the ag it's a little bit old fashioned. Like people say, yeah, these guys, uh, they all look so young. They're gonna teach me how to grow a pig better and faster. Well, I've been doing this for the last 40 years. You're not gonna teach me anything. So this barrier between producers and technology, you really need to be very careful with that. And that's where the conversations come on, understand what the real problems problems are. So you need to go into the field, see what's going on. And it's not about like, yeah, I have a smart camera with AI and machine learning. I'm just putting all these buzzwords out there to make it sexy. You actually really need to solve something. So it's not about just technology in the ag sector, because if I talk about this, everyone will say, wow, what you guys doing is amazing. But what are you actually solving for the person that is in the middle of the field, uh,
Hmm.
working hard to raise those animals with a lot of challenges, a lot of things going on. So they don't care if you are using machine learning, AI, big data. How are you gonna help me solve my day-to-day problems? So I think that's the biggest myth. It's not about these fancy words and technology, but it's actually solving real life problems at a value return. Like if they're gonna invest dollar here, they want to return that. I mean, it's not just about saying, yeah, we have technology in our farms and everything, but we are actually solving something.
Yeah, that's one of the things I love about this industry, and you've said it multiple times as we've talked here, is that everybody really does truly want to help the farmer, the producer at the end of the day. And whether that be through like data and saying, hey, it looks like if you feed them this, this is what's happening on the weight side, and we can help you there, or whatever it may be, it's all about helping the farmer get the best that he can out of it and find a return, whether that be on anything. And I love that you touched on it.
Yeah, and I think right now there's uh, producers are being more like they want more technology right now. Labor it's becoming more complicated. There are a lot of I don't know health issues. So tech and analytics can really help this. So I think next year is gonna be a great year for these kind of conversations and actually going into the field and implementing these kind of technologies.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that quite a bit, and I'm sure we'll talk next year as well, since it's around the corner. At least as we're recording this,
Yeah.
and I love to see how that plays out, because I kind of see it too. Right, technology's getting in more and more, and for me, I love tech. I come from tech, and I see how much data can really help drive decisions and drive decisions for a return for the better.
Yeah, and it's also making this industry sexy for the new generations. So at Asymmetrics, we are 25 people, and I think I'm not sure about the number, but the average age is below 30. So it's 27, 26. We have guys with 22 years old.
Wow.
So these guys, how you make them into the agriculture sector, it's really interesting.
Yeah, making me feel old. In my 30s over here, making me feel old. But kind of, maybe this is an interesting pivot for a question then. But Sebastian, what would you say is like the biggest challenge you guys are facing right now over at Asymmetrics? And how are you tackling it?
I think it's a little bit with what I told you earlier. We've been developing. I'm gonna go with Big Vision. We've been developing this camera for the last 8 years, and at
Wow.
the beginning, like we had like this is a great idea. Uh,
Hmm.
Swine producers they can't track the growth curve on the finishing stage, but what if we could help them with that? So we got in love with the idea, but we didn't know what we actually were solving. Like, okay, they don't do it, but do they really need it? And if they need it, what do they need it for, and how's that gonna pay off? And
Hmm.
so we spent a lot of time developing the camera, doing a lot of trials, but then the business case for it was not really clear, and we struggled so much understanding how we were actually solving a real problem for them. And then we started building on that, have a lot of conversations, and right now we are in a really sweet spot where we are not selling you a camera, but we are selling you something that will help you with nutrition phases, finding maybe early health symptoms in your production, findings of I don't know, forecasting weights. So all these kind of things that you're actually solving in health, nutrition, operations, in these kind of areas, it's where you actually can solve someone's problem. It's not an industry problem, but you really need to solve a real problem for someone inside the company, and that's the one you're gonna help with your technology, with your capabilities. So it's been this struggle, like as I said before, yeah, we have a camera that uses AI, So this sounds super sexy, but what actually solves on field, that's what we've been learning in the last year. And we yeah, we did some really good changes to the product, and right now it's working really good, looking really good.
That's awesome. It sounds like you guys have put a ton of work into it, a ton of testing, and lots of talking on how to make it solve problems.
Yeah, and I think this is a very common problem. You think you get in love with your idea, and you
Hmm.
just close yourself, trying to make it better. But what are you actually doing on the field? Who are you talking to? What the real day to day problems you are solving? At the end, that's what really matters.
That reminded me of a quote that uh, I don't know who I heard it from or where it is, but I shared it with my teenage girls, and one was really upset one day about a boy or whatever, and I was like, "Do you actually like love him?" Like they were kind of dating, kind of not dating, didn't know, I don't know, but she was confused. So I was like, "Do you love him or do you love the idea of loving him?" And so it's kind of the same thing with ideas, like you just said, right? I can become really in love with some ideas, um, but it's not necessarily like the right way to go, right? Or even the right thing.
Yeah, and I think for everyone out there in tech, for agriculture, like we've seen people really want it, but you really need to understand why they want it, why do they need it, what are you solving, uh, and keep having those conversations. You know, kind of sit behind the computer all day. You need to be on the field, seeing how
Mhm.
people operate with their systems, and that's fundamental for delivering value to our sector.
It's the face to face time. It's so important, whether it's with clients or with the farmers themselves. It's
Yeah,
so important.
even with the animals, you need to see like we have these temperature and humidity sensors, and we were seeing like how these chickens would bite them. You have to look at them. So we have a smart weight, and it has an LED light, and that would attract them, and they will start hitting it, and they will turn off the the smart weight. So we had to change the LED to be always off. But if you are not looking at the animals, how would you know that the chickens were the one turning off the smart weight? So
You'd never know, but yeah, I have a peacock that's decided within the last week or so to make my front yard its home, and here I just put out all our Christmas lights, and I've been watching him because peacocks are notorious for looking at their reflection or something bright and like going after it very aggressively, and I'm like, please just don't break any, because then then I got to figure out what to do with this bird, but. Kind of a funny story there with the chickens turning it turning it off.
yeah, it's and they eat the sensors. We also had some problems of pigs eating the sensors. Anyway,
That's a story for another time.
that's part of our daily, let's say, struggles, learnings.
Yeah, the daily news.
Yeah,
All right, guys. So the pigs ate it this time. How are we going to stop that? um, Kind of closing up here, Sebastian. I got a few more questions for you. Um, but what is one podcast or resource about business or marketing or anything like that, some sort of self growth thing, right? That you'd like to recommend to the audience?
I think more than one podcast. It's about searching something you're really interested in learning, and I think podcasts are a great way to really go really deep into one subject. So we've been listening to a marketing podcast. It's in Spanish. It's made from a Colombian and a Mexican
Mhm.
guy. It's called Sales Machine, Máquina de Ventas. The insights there, they've been so great, and we're just listening to them. They recommend the book. You go and read the book. So I'm doing like a master's degree in sales and marketing, but it's just a podcast and some books and some newsletter. If you really choose that field, I'm pretty sure there are gonna be a lot of podcasts in that field. You really want to go deeper. You can you can do a master's degree for free, and you don't get a diploma, but you get all this knowledge and all these insights for you to go there. And we at the team, we like 5 of us are listening to this podcast, so we go together. We talk about what we found out was most useful. We try to implement some of those things. And so it's from the podcast to real life implementing into our company and learning. So this really worked, this didn't. And it's been a quite interesting process right now that, as I told you at the beginning, we are learning how to do this marketing brand awareness at the beginning of a startup like life. And this has been really useful because sometimes we think we know things, but there's people with much more knowledge about these fields, and they are experts, and they've gone through all the good and bad things, and they'll lead you to where you need to go. And at the end, you can also pay for a more personalized study. But I think podcasts are really, really good way to learn a specific area of knowledge that you're really interested to. So we went with this Sales Machine podcast, and
Mhm.
it's been amazing for us.
Awesome. I'm glad that you're taking stuff from it. I mean, I always like to tell my salespeople, learn from my mistakes so you don't need to do it. So if you have a shortcut, or even for me, right? I'm not an expert, or wouldn't consider myself like a super expert master or anything. There's always somebody better, and I feel if you can take anything from anybody at any point, you should.
Yeah, and I think at the end it's about finding what works for you. What can work for you, Daryl, might not work for me. If we are
Mhm.
all doing the same strategy, it will stop working. So you need to adjust and find what's better for you and your company and the people you are talking to. And even this guy might be different to this guy, so you need to understand how to approach each one of them. So it's about having all these tools at your disposal and choosing what works best for you.
Absolutely. You have to find yourself and your style, and I like to call it the shopping cart method. I like this, I don't like that, and just pick up what you like.
Yeah, and like in this generation, like a couple of years ago, you just would call someone. Now you don't call, you send an email. But people is with thousands of emails. You need to find that sweet spot.
Yeah, you do, and it varies from segment to segment, from market to market, from
From people to people inside the same company. You don't talk
yeah.
to this guy the same way you talk to this other guy. They all have different styles and preferences. So you need to read.
We're all unique at the end of the day.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
we started talking about this before we started recording, but I stopped you because I was really interested and wanted to hear it for the first time together with the audience. But Sebastian, what's your most favorite trip that you've ever taken?
Well, I had the opportunity to go to a wedding in India.
Hmm.
Uh, I did my MBA in the University of Bath in the UK, and one of my best friends was from India. He was, at the time we were doing the master degree, their parents were searching for his wife. And I asked him, I need to understand how does it work. And he said, I 100% trust my parents. They'll find the right girl for me. So I'll leave it to them. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. Then 1 year later, he wrote me, Sebas, I'm getting married next October. Are you coming? And I was, okay, let me talk with at my house if I can go. Then I ended up going with my brother and two of my best friends. So there were four of us in India. And it was, I don't know, you've heard like people either love it or hate it, kind of like
Hmm.
Vegemite, this kind of food that some people love it or hate it. We really love it. I really like the experience. We experienced a really local India because we were with people from the city, taking us to their places. We traveled by train. We talked with a lot of people, and seeing like these different approaches to life, a way of living. I remember I was talking with some kids, and I told them I was from Colombia. And one of the kids asked me, "Oh, how far, how many hours by train is Colombia from here?" And I was like, "Wow!" In his mind, everything is some hours by train far away.
Hmm.
I was like, "No, you actually need to catch a plane, go over the ocean, and getting to know this." I mean, they're really open. They really like to share. I mean, my friend invited me with my brother and two other friends, and they will give us like almost everything. And like, please don't give me anything else. I feel ashamed, and they're so open to share their culture and these so many different perspectives, even within the country, the food, the street. It sometimes can be too much.
Hmm.
I don't know, the noise, people grabbing your hand, and they won't let you go. They will get your hand grabbed all the time. But I think when you connect with the culture in different ways, through food, through places, through talking, using, like, living the way they live, you get your mind, I think, expanded at some point. I think India is one of those places that will expand your mind a lot through everything. So I think it's a really special place with a lot of things to learn, to see, and connect in different ways.
That's really cool. It's cool that you had that experience as well, because you're right. If you have an experience like that wherever you go, it's going to be eye opening, and your horizon's going to get like that much bigger. Um, and Cool story about the kid, and how far of a train ride is that? That's super cute. If I told my wife that now, she'd start melting.
Yeah, and it's seeing how people view the world. And it's sometimes it's like given by the way you grew, or like by your culture.
Hmm.
And not everyone has the same point of view. It's actually very far from your point of view.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, and culture is a big part of it, and how you're raised, I think, is as well. Um,
Yeah,
you know, some people are. This is super general, but if you're raised with a closed mind, or you're with blinders on, and it happens, and it's through no fault of anybody's, you're just not going to see the whole view.
yeah, and you just say something really important, and I think about this being closed mind. When you go to these places, it's not about judging or comparing. Oh, look how they live, and I live like this. It's just different, and it's not that your way is better than theirs or vice versa. It's just different ways of approaching life, and you don't need to understand it. Just live it, and don't judge it. Just understand how it's something very different, and it's also acceptable.
I love that you just said you don't need to understand it, because I think as people in business, sometimes we want to understand everything. And in this case, and people's lives, and you're traveling somewhere you're not from, or that doesn't have a similar culture, we don't necessarily need to understand it. I don't necessarily understand some things my wife does, and my wife's Cuban, and she does some really strange things that I'm like, I have no, this makes zero sense to me, but it makes her happy. It makes her parents happy. They're happy, so that's all I need to understand, right? And if I understand later in life, great, but you know, I'm not going to judge them for it.
Yeah, that's a great example. Yeah.
So, uh, great point to kind of end on there. But Sebastian, where can our listeners find you specifically online, and your company?
Yeah, perfect. So on LinkedIn, you can either search for Asymmetrics or my name, Sebastian Villegas with double L. Go to our webpage, asymmetrics.co, just co.
Mm-hmm.
You'll find everything we are doing there. Also on YouTube, we have a really nice video about peak vision, how it works, how it actually measures the peaks, and it gives real time uh, weight on the flux. So I think YouTube, LinkedIn, and our webpage are great places to start.
Awesome. Well, I would recommend everybody go and check them out. Also, Sebastian's amazing to talk to. If you have any questions or anything like that, hit him up. But Sebastian, it's been awesome having you on here today.
Thank you, Don, for the invitation. The conversation was great. Hope we have another one not too far away.
Likewise. And I'm sure we'll run into each other at a trade show eventually. Hopefully next year, I'm hoping. Love to meet you in person. But again, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. We loved having you.
Thank you.
All right, guys. And thank you so much for listening as well. Everyone, have a great rest of your day.